Birmingham, United Kingdom, 1942. There are secrets heavier than an army. And sometimes, those secrets fit in a pocket. Picture a dark coat, a quiet walk, an ordinary city. Inside a pocket, no weapon, no money, no movie microfilm. Just sheets of paper, physics equations, plans, diagrams, notes. Enough to rebuild the inner logic of the atomic bomb. The man carrying them is Klaus Fuchs. To his colleagues, he is a brilliant physicist, quiet, almost invisible. To Moscow, he is a mole. A key piece, a strategic access point. A mole of the Soviet intelligence machine, inside the Manhattan Project. Back then, names and acronyms changed. Agencies reorganized. But the mission stayed the same: get the secret before the other side. And what Klaus Fuchs is about to do is not just steal a secret. He will speed up an entire nuclear program. He will push a rivalry between two nations into a new kind of war. A Cold War. A psychological war. Where peace hangs on one frozen sentence. If one strikes, the other strikes back. And nobody wins. Klaus Fuchs is born in 1911, in Germany. In the 1930s, his country hardens, then overturns. When Hitler comes to power, Fuchs understands one thing. There is no place for opponents. So he runs. Destination, Great Britain. There, he rebuilds his life. He studies, he works, he becomes indispensable. War breaks out, and suddenly, science is no longer just knowledge. It has become a weapon. In British laboratories, people chase the unthinkable. And Fuchs, the exile, finds himself in the right place, at the right time. 1942. According to British counterintelligence archives, this is the year Fuchs begins spying for the Soviet Union. It sounds insane. Why betray the country that took you in? Because in his mind, it is not betrayal, it is moral duty. After the Second World War, Fuchs does not believe in peace. He already sees a world split in two. One camp holds the ultimate weapon and rules through fear, the other camp endures. And Fuchs convinces himself of one thing. If only one side has the atomic bomb, the post-war world will become domination. So he decides to open the door from the inside. But a spy never works alone, and in the files, Fuchs stops being a man, he becomes a code name. In intelligence work, you don't say Klaus Fuchs, you say a code name. British archives describe it like this: Fuchs receives the code name Rest. And in 1942, he is put in contact with a liaison agent, Ursula Beurton. Code name SONYA. On the surface, she was a housewife and a simple mother, but also a central figure in Soviet military intelligence. What would become the KGB? And the setting is almost insultingly ordinary. Banbury, Oxfordshire. Quiet streets, on the surface. Narrow paths. Countryside, nothing that looks like a battlefield. And yet, according to those same archives, this is where Fuchs meets SONYA, again and again. And this is where he hands over secret documents, nuclear secrets. At this stage, no one sees him coming. Because Fuchs doesn't look like a spy. He looks like a tired professor. He speaks little, he works a lot, he inspires trust. And trust is perfect camouflage. But the real turning point is not in England, it is elsewhere. In a place that almost doesn't exist on maps. A place where equations and theory slowly become a weapon. In 1943, Fuchs is sent to the United States. He joins the British team integrated into the Manhattan Project. Los Alamos, a fortress laboratory. Badges, checks, compartmentalization. Everyone sees only part of the puzzle. In theory, it's impregnable. In practice, the lock is human. British archives remind us. Fuchs plays an important role in the project. He contributes designs, equations, techniques used to build the first atomic bombs. And the more he learns, the more dangerous he becomes. Because at that level, a secret is not stolen like an object. It is transmitted like knowledge. And knowledge, once out, never comes back. But to transmit from America, you need relays, a liaison, a courier, a discrete link, and one name appears. Harry Gold. A courier. A messenger from the shadows. Not a star, not a James Bond, just a man who receives and delivers. And that is the paradox of this story. The fate of the world can move forward on an ordinary logistics chain. The world doesn't notice, not yet. For a few years, the West convinces itself it has time. A nuclear monopoly, a lasting advantage. And then, 1949. On August 29th, the Soviet Union tests its first bomb. A flash, a mushroom cloud, and one certainty dies. The American monopoly collapses. This is not only a scientific feat. It is a major geopolitical turning point. After the Second World War, the United States and the USSR rise as superpowers, increasingly opposed ideologically. And now, the rivalry is nuclear. So a logic sets in. A forced peace, under tension. Because total war would mean annihilation. And one sentence captures this new age. What preserves this fragile peace is the promise of retaliation. If one attacks, the other strikes back. That is the balance of terror. And with this new world comes a brutal question. How did the USSR get there so fast? The answer is not in a factory. It is in a file. And inside that file, one word, rest. To answer, Western services turned to a cryptanalysis project. VENONA. Soviet messages, numbers, code names. And suddenly, the invisible becomes almost visible. In a reference document published by a major American cryptology agency, we read this. The codenames Charles and Rest are identified as Klaus Fuchs in the summer of 1949, from messages decrypted between 1947 and 1949. The trap is perfect. And yet, there is a paradox. VENONA is too secret to use publicly. Reveal it, and you warn Moscow, we are reading your communications. And then, everything goes dark. So another method is needed. Not a trial based on numbers, a trial based on a man, they need an admission. And from here, the story becomes a hallway thriller. No car chase, no gunshots. Just interrogations, pressure, patience. A face-to-face, where every word can bring down an espionage network. And then, the moment arrives. Fuchs finally admits it. In an official American diplomatic document. It is reported that he signs, on February 10, 1950, a statement. He acknowledges transmitting information on atomic energy to the Soviet Union, during and after the war, motivated by his attachment to communism. And then comes the blade. March 1, 1950, he pleads guilty. Sentence, 14 years, the maximum under the British Official Secrets Act, and the British files describe the full thread. Rest, SONYA, Banbury, the Manhattan Project, the documents handed over, the secret gone. In that moment, the world understands something chilling. The atomic secret didn't leak, it was siphoned off. But an admission doesn't reveal only one man, it reveals a network. And when a mole falls, it pulls down a chain. Because the truth is, Rest wasn't a lone wolf. When Fuchs falls, he doesn't just confess. He creates a path investigators can follow step by step, like footprints in wet cement. And the first footprint has a name. Harry Gold. A courier. A human pipeline. The kind of man who can walk through a city with nothing that looks suspicious, because he is the disguise. An ordinary face, an ordinary coat, ordinary hands, carrying extraordinary secrets. And once Gold is in the frame, the story widens fast. Because a courier doesn't carry for one person. A courier connects. And Gold's admissions lead investigators to another link, inside the Manhattan Project ecosystem. David Greenglass. Not a theoretical physicist, a machinist. Close to the workshops, close to components, close enough to catch details the pure scientists might never touch. A man who understands that in a locked fortress, you don't always steal the whole blueprint. Sometimes you steal the parts that matter. And then, the case turns personal. Because Greenglass doesn't just point to a stranger. He points toward family, toward New York, toward a couple that will become one of the most explosive names of the Cold War. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. A husband and wife, accused of sitting in the middle of a recruitment web. Introductions, contacts, trusted circles, the kind of network that looks like politics, until it becomes espionage. And suddenly, the world isn't watching one spy. It's watching a chain reaction. Fuchs to Gold. Gold to Greenglass. Greenglass to the Rosenbergs. A network that doesn't need gunshots to terrify a nation. Because the weapon is not a pistol. It's time, stolen time. Months, maybe years, in a race where 1 year can redraw the balance of power. And that's why the panic spreads. Because the question changes. It's no longer did someone leak it? It becomes, how many doors were open at the same time? Other names surface. Couriers, intermediaries, links. And while everyone is staring at Fuchs, there is another shadow inside Los Alamos. A younger shadow. A name that sounds almost impossible when you first hear it. Theodore Hall. So young, he barely looks old enough to be there. But he is there, inside the Manhattan Project. And he doesn't just pass rumors. Historians say he passed real design insight information that could help confirm, accelerate, stabilize the Soviet effort. And Hall doesn't move alone either. He has a link, a friend. Saville Sachs. A connector who doesn't look like a spy, because he looks like what he really is, a student, a trusted face. In this world, that's enough. Because sometimes espionage is not about professional agents. Sometimes it's about belief, youth, confidence, and the simple fact that the guards are trained to look for monsters, not for a friend carrying a message. And that's the pattern again. A fortress of secrets, breached by something smaller than a key, a human relationship. And later, experts estimate something terrifying. Fuchs's information may have allowed the USSR to test its bomb 1 to 2 years earlier than it would otherwise have done. 1 to 2 years. In a nuclear race, that is an eternity, and in the shadow of those 1 to 2 years, there is the entire world. 2 blocks, 2 arsenals, doctrines, red lines, and a planet learning to breathe with a new fear, a nuclear fear. And when these cases erupt, they don't stay inside courtrooms. They spill into headlines, into politics, into fear. Because the public doesn't hear code names and cables. The public hears one thing: the bomb is no longer ours. And once nuclear parity arrives, everything changes. The superpowers stop thinking in terms of victory, and start thinking in terms of survival. Retaliation, deterrence, mutual destruction. A peace that is not built on trust, but on the promise that if one side crosses the line, the world ends. That is the balance of terror. Not as a theory but as a daily atmosphere. And somewhere behind that atmosphere there is still the image that started this story. A man in a coat walking like nothing matters with a secret heavy enough to bend the century. Fuchs disappears behind walls. Years pass, and then, 1959, he is released for good behavior. And he goes to live in East Germany. That choice is not a detail. It is a final signature, as if he closed the book himself. He left the West to join the camp he remained devoted to, the camp he gave the secret to. And the question remains, the one history never erases, was he a traitor? Or a man convinced that balance, even terrifying, was better than absolute monopoly? Whatever you think of him, one thing is certain, Klaus Fuchs never pressed a button. He did something quieter, and sometimes more decisive. He transmitted knowledge, and in the 20th century, knowledge can be enough to change the fate of the world. If you enjoyed this journey through history, hit like and subscribe to our channel, so you don't miss anything.